Creation Day 6, Man. All of creation is leading up to what is about to happen at the end of Creation Day 6. The creation of the human race was central to God's purpose from the beginning. Every step of creation up to this point had one main purpose: to prepare a perfect environment for man. This is the purpose for which the entire universe was created, so that God's grace, mercy, and compassion could be lavished on this creature created in God's own image. Genesis 1:26 and 27 tells us about the creation of man. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And so the creation of the very first man, Adam, occurred on the same day that all the cattle, all the creeping things, and all the beasts of the earth were created. All of this occurred in one 24-hour period, just one revolution of the earth. Adam was specially and personally created by God. There is no way to believe what is written in Genesis and also believe that Adam evolved from some already existing animal. Genesis 2:7 is very specific about what occurred. "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being." Genesis also describes how the very first woman, Eve, was made from the rib of her husband. So the man and the woman were each created individually, both by acts of God. Like the animals, they moved and breathed and were conscious life forms, but there the similarity ended. Adam and Eve were creatures who were unlike any other created being. Other life forms could never evolve into them. Man was created in the image of God. Unlike the other creatures, we are persons. Our lives involve relationships, including a relationship with God. God's image was stamped on the invisible part of us, our spirit. This is what makes us spiritual beings. It's the part of our being that scientists will never be able to find under a microscope. It is not programmed into our DNA. It's spiritual. And it is that true personhood which makes us in the image of God. The human body is a marvel of engineering. All of the systems of the body have been carefully crafted and amazingly integrated. But according to popular beliefs about human origins, modern man gradually evolved from primitive cavemen, and those cavemen somehow evolved from ape-like creatures over a long period of millions of years. A colorful book entitled The Last 2 Million Years features an introductory chapter that is quite typical of how evolution is presented.
In Darwin's time there was little evidence to support his theory, but since then a whole chain of missing links has been established by study of fossil bones. This chart shows how over 40 million years, descendants of the early primates gradually evolved to produce modern man.
Notice how 40 million years is rattled off as though it was an unquestionable scientific fact. But that's not the only fairy tale presented in this book.
As man's brain became bigger, responding to the demands of more complex hunting, he became taller, with more refined teeth and jaws.
Did you catch that? More complex hunting caused man's brain to grow larger? If that worked, you probably can think of someone you'd love to send out on a hunting expedition so that his brain would get bigger. Also, how did hunting for food produce teeth and jaws that are more refined? Welcome to another book of evolutionary fairy tales. The search for fossil evidence to try and prove the theory of human evolution has gone on for over 100 years and has proven to be a miserable failure. Whenever you hear someone make a scientific claim, you should always ask, what's the evidence? We are going to talk about some of the so-called evidence of human evolution. Heidelberg Man. This entire creature was drawn in detail by an artist based on only a jawbone discovered near Heidelberg, Germany. The jawbone was unusual because it was rather large, but many scientists since then have identified it as being very much human. Piltdown Man. In 1912, a young geologist took some skull fragments, a jawbone, and a single tooth, put them together and introduced them to the world as Piltdown Man. The New York Times headline proclaimed, "Darwin theory is proved true," and references to Piltdown Man were placed in thousands of school textbooks. Years later, the truth came out that Piltdown Man was a carefully created fake. Sadly, this hoax had already influenced millions of people to accept evolution as a fact. It was even used at the Scopes trial as proof of evolution, which caused evolution to be taught in public schools in the United States, where it is still being taught today. All based on a lie. Peking Man. In 1921, near Peking, China, 2 molar teeth were dug from a limestone hill. Excited to claim that evolution's missing link had been found in China, the discovery of Peking Man was announced to the public. Soon, scores of workers were sifting through tons of earth. A skull fashioned out of some bone fragments was made, and this became known as Nellie. Peking Man was somewhat smaller than the average human today, with a proportionally smaller head. However, the head size is within the range of normal humans and is actually no different than modern humans. Peking Man is not a missing link. Neanderthal Man. 150 years ago, the reconstruction of skeletons labeled as Neanderthals were positioned stooped or bent over to depict them much like an ape man. However, it is now admitted that Neanderthal is actually completely human. Cro-Magnon Man. Cro-Magnons are considered by evolutionists to be early modern humans. A team of genetic scientists have shown that Cro-Magnon man was genetically and physically consistent with modern humans. So, what's the difference? Minor physical differences and minor genetic differences don't make a human being more or less human. When we start from the Bible's perspective, it's no surprise that we find numerous variations of humans, all genetically similar and all very much human in their behavior. We expect to find minor genetic differences because God created man's DNA with the ability to have some variations. Aren't you glad we don't all look exactly the same? But these variations do not somehow remove the image of God which is imprinted on every human. In the year 2000, the Human Genome Project announced to the world that all humans biologically belong to one race. Although the people heading the project did not realize it, they actually confirmed the Bible, which tells us that all people are descendants of Adam and Eve, and all humans do indeed belong to one biological race. As the 6th day came to an end, once again God looked at what he had made. Genesis 1:31 tells us, "Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good." Everything was perfect, just as God had planned it to be. You may think that at the end of Creation Day 6, Creation Week is over, but one of the most amazing and incredible days of creation is still ahead. Next time we will talk about Creation Day 7. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching the Bible Brick channel. If you liked this video, please click like and subscribe below. And check out our other videos. You can find links to all our videos on BibleBrick.com. That's Bible-Brick.com.